Welcome to Judy Palken's class on nutrition mythology. She's a registered dietitian. She's done quite a few programs with us, and I'm going to paste some links in the chat box later, including a calendar to more Judy classes. So keep an eye out for the links in a little bit, but for now I'm going to turn it over to Judy.
Thank you so much, Devin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to be here again, here being my home in Northborough, but with all of you. So the class today, Nutrition Mythology, so that came from the idea that the library's doing this summer a theme of mythology. And the thought was, could we do nutrition mythology? So I am interpreting that to mean trends, fads, even marketing strategies that maybe you should be aware of, and perhaps as we talk about them can help us all to be savvier consumers. As before, if you've been here before, since you're registered, you'll get an email with a PDF of the slides. So if anything you see is of interest to you, don't feel you have to write it down, because you'll get that if it's useful to you. Okay, so why is it not? Trying to get to the next slide. Okay, so our agenda for this afternoon is I want to talk a little bit about nutrition misinformation and where is all this misinformation coming from. I want to talk about what I'm going to call mythical foods, foods that are touted as having magical properties. Want to talk about supplements, and then I want to wrap it all up with some observations and recommendations and leave you with a few resources in case you find yourself in a situation where you're trying to evaluate the veracity of some claim about a food or a diet or a trend. So I want to mention first that food having strong symbolism has been around for centuries and even longer. So going back to Genesis, for example, the apple symbolizes knowledge and temptation, although it's not an apple for everyone. One thing I learned was different cultures have determined that it's a different fruit or food item that was in the Garden of Eden. Some say it's figs or grapes or a banana or even mushrooms or wheat. The pomegranate in many cultures symbolizes life and fertility. Not surprising when you think of all the seeds in a pomegranate, that makes sense. Grapes symbolize prosperity. Wheat symbolizes bounty. And egg symbolizes fertility and potential. And in fact, almost all of them are associated with fertility. Fertility has been a big theme with food symbolism. So today we have food symbolism that very often is associated with health claims about the foods in question, and it's not surprising. So this is where we are today, and you can find something like this in the checkout line of wherever you shop, and if nothing else, it can keep you entertained in line at the supermarket while you're waiting. There is so much nutrition nonsense out there. And we're intrigued when we see something like this, because a lot of us have health issues, or we love someone who has health issues and we're concerned. So when we see that there's a keto diet where we can lose 15 pounds in 7 days, or sesame oil lowers blood pressure by 32 points, or what we can eat to protect ourselves against COVID, we're interested. These headlines speak to us. And there is a lot of misinformation out there. And let's look at where a lot of it's coming from. A lot of it does come in the form of magazines, in both the articles and the ads. If you look at the ads in the end, especially in the end of magazines, you'll see a lot of really interesting ads and things that you can spend your money on. Some kind of questionable. There's a ton of misinformation online. So the minute you Google something, a diet or an herbal supplement or anything, you will get, along with some good information, you'll get mixed in with that a lot of real misinformation. And it can be hard to tell what's what, but we'll talk about that, how you do that. And then all forms of social media, be it Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, and all the others, are vehicles for nutrition misinformation. When you see TV talk shows, very often there's a lot of misinformation being spouted. Sometimes it's the host, and I am talking about you, Dr. Oz. and sometimes it's the guests. Infomercials. If you're ever stuck in front of the TV and you find yourself watching a very long commercial, that's an infomercial. And whether it's a doctor sitting there touting his line of supplements that you need them all, or something as innocent as a blender, there's a lot of misinformation that goes along with those commercials. There's a lot of books that have a lot of misinformation. And let's face it, we do get some from our friends, our family, our coworkers, because it's just out there. But what's difficult is there's a lot of good information too. So how do you separate the wheat from the chaff? Let's talk about the mythical foods. And that's not a real term. That's a term I made up for this class. But foods that have a reputation these days of having really, really beneficial health properties that maybe aren't quite warranted, even if the foods do have some good value. So I've made a list here. We're going to talk about coconut oil, bone broth, apple cider vinegar, liquid aminos, celery juice, and nutrition shakes. And I chose these because I see a lot about these in my reading, and also I've had people ask me about most of these. So I know if some people are wondering, maybe some of you are wondering too. Maybe you've heard a lot about some of these foods. Let's start with coconut oil. So there's a lot of claims for coconut oil. Probably any ailment you can think of, including being overweight, you can go online and read that coconut oil will cure this problem. Some of the health claims, but by no means all, are that it burns fat. In particular, it targets cellulite, that fat that we women often get on our hips and thighs. It's just kind of dimpled. That it will lead to weight loss. And there are people out there saying it's a treatment for Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia, and that it improves cholesterol level and overall cardiac health. So let's find out what's really going on here. The reason that there's so many health claims for coconut oil, at least the main reason that I'm aware of, is that it does contain something called medium chain triglycerides. Fat is made up of triglycerides, and they can be short, medium, or long chain. Most of the ones that we eat in our food supply are long chain, whether they're from vegetable oils, super good oils like olive oil, meat, butter, you name it. Most of the fats are long chain triglycerides, but there are medium chain ones out there, and they have a role. They are really important medically. They're used in hospitals and by doctors for people who have malabsorption. They're used for feeding. So if you've ever known anyone in the ICU and they can't eat for days or weeks on end and they're fed intravenously, the fat source will be medium chain triglycerides because they're metabolized differently. They're rapidly broken down and absorbed by the body. So that's a good thing from a medical standpoint. But are those medium chain triglycerides responsible for all those wonderful health benefits in that list? No. Here's what we know. In the picture here, it's just like a typical ad that you can find online listing the many, many, many supposed benefits of coconut oil. Here's the reality. The health claims are not supported by scientific research. In fact, a study, kind of a meta-analysis, just came out in Circulation, one of the journals of the American Heart Association, this March, showing that in fact, diets that are higher in coconut oil raise LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol. Not surprising, 92% of the fat in coconut oil is saturated. So some of that is the MCTs, medium chain triglycerides, some of it's the long chain fatty acids, but it's mostly saturated, which is the bad kind of fat in general that raises serum cholesterol. It has never been shown to improve brain function and Alzheimer's disease, but that claim is made a lot, leading a lot of family members to very sad hopefulness when they switch their loved one over to coconut oil. It's never been shown to improve blood lipids or have cardiovascular benefit. Okay, so what do we do about it? I know that a lot of people like coconut oil. They've gotten very attached to it. So if you like it, use it in moderation. I would not make it your everyday oil. I don't think it warrants that. It's not healthful enough. For that, we look to, for example, extra virgin olive oil. But here's a recipe for a beautiful looking Thai chicken coconut curry, and you can find hundreds of such recipes online. So if you enjoy it as an ingredient, go for it. I mean, when we look at the ingredients in our kitchens, not every single one of them is a paragon of health. Just like we have butter and we might have some rich, heavy cream and chocolate. I think of coconut oil that way. Think of it as like an ingredient that you're using for flavoring, but not for health. Next one is bone broth. I don't know if you know, but bone broth has taken on the label of a superfood in popular culture. So it's like a stock or a broth, but it's different from other stocks or broths in that they take roasted bones and they're cooked for a long, long time, typically even longer than 24 hours. And they're seasoned with nice flavorings like salt and pepper and maybe thyme and sage, and they're strained. And sometimes the meat is attached to the bones, sometimes it's not, sometimes there's vegetables. So it's a broth. But the health claims are that it boosts immunity, aids digestion, relieves arthritis, detoxes the liver, and improves wound healing, among other claims. So there's little evidence for any of the health claims. The studies have not been done. I say little evidence because there actually could be some health benefit to it in that it's nourishing. It's got vitamins and minerals just the same way that a bowl of chicken soup would. And you might feel really good if you have a cold and you have a bowl of chicken soup. You might get that very same feeling from bone broth. But I do want you to be aware that there is a health risk associated with it. Bones are known to sequester heavy metals, and it's thought that there's a risk of lead contamination for people that consume a lot of bone broth. But there are people doing that because there's practitioners of bone broth that are saying you should have at least 3 servings per day or more. That's not a good idea. But if you want to have bone broth occasionally, or probably even a serving a day would be fine, I don't know. But I wouldn't make it something that you had 3 times a day because of that risk of contamination. If you buy it commercially prepared, just check the sodium content. Like any soups you buy at a supermarket, the sodium content can be very, very high. Some of them are not so high. I took a look and some of them are very reasonable. So just check that, especially if you have high blood pressure and you need to watch your sodium intake. And like anything else that you can doctor up, if you feel like adding whole grains or vegetables, by all means do. That always improves the nutritional value of anything. But don't expect miracles from bone broth. Next one is extremely popular, apple cider vinegar. It's all over the internet. There's a lot of celebrities that are pushing and writing about apple cider vinegar, including Gwyneth Paltrow, who sells it on her Goop website, Katy Perry, Victoria Beckham, and the like. They're all, these people are promoting apple cider vinegar, some of them making money from it. You can buy shots, like these shots on Amazon. You can buy capsules. There's drinks made with vinegar. So let's take a look at these shots on Amazon. And there were many of these. This is just the first one I came across, but it's a 6-pack of 2-ounce shots. Now they are flavored with turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, honey, and cayenne. So they sound nice, but it's $19.99 for this little 6-pack. And the recommendation is that you do this every day. That will get very expensive very fast from something that if you really wanted to do it, you could just use your own vinegar at home. You don't have to buy these little shots. You can also buy, even more astounding to me, apple cider vinegar gummies. So these are like little gummy pills made out of vinegar, 60 gummies for $14.99. I'm trying to figure out who would spend their money on this. So the health claims, and there's many for vinegar, are that it can help you control weight, help control blood sugar, lower cholesterol, control blood pressure, do a toxin cleanse, treatment for cancer. I'm not kidding you. Now, of those, there is one where there may be some truth. There just needs to be more research. Limited data shows that it might slightly lower blood sugar, but there needs to be more research. And for anyone who's diabetic, please don't give up your healthy eating and your exercise, because you're not going to control your diabetes with apple cider vinegar. It might turn out that it is a helpful adjunct. And by the way, the bottle that I'm showing on this slide is a perfectly good brand. It's a very nice apple cider vinegar, Bragg's, organic, raw, unfiltered. You know, it's like, if you're going to buy it, let's buy the really good thing. And this is a good one. But again, few studies support the benefits. There's very limited research. And there are risks for anybody deciding to drink it straight. It's an acid. Vinegar has to be at least 5% acetic acid. So doing this for a period of time can lead to tooth erosion, irritate the throat, and worsen acid reflux. So I don't recommend it. If you really feel that you want to drink vinegar, please dilute it with something like water, but don't drink it straight. There are, as I mentioned, a lot of apple cider vinegar drinks, and this one is called Switchel, and it's making a comeback. This is a drink that dates back to colonial times, and it actually sounds like fun. I haven't tried it yet, but I intend to, just for the fun of it. And here's the recipe. It's got ginger, it's got honey, it's got lemon juice, rosemary, seltzer, and optional vodka and honeycomb. It just sounds interesting, but you know, I don't believe the hype about it, that it's going to cure high blood pressure or anything like that. I just think it sounds like a fun thing to try. Okay, we're moving on from vinegar to liquid aminos. So I've got two bottles here. One is Bragg's, again, liquid aminos made out of soy. The other one, I don't know if it's blocked on your screen as it is on mine from the Zoom. Okay, so it's coconut aminos. And these are the two major types of liquid aminos. And these are culinary seasonings. They're kind of like soy sauce. And so they're made either from soybeans or fermented coconut sap. And there's all kinds of health claims. People who are promoting them say, well, they have amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So it's a good source of protein, which we all need. They say it's gluten-free, and that is a good thing if you need to follow a gluten-free diet. For coconut aminos in particular, they're saying it reduces the risk of heart disease, you can manage blood sugar, and lose weight. Here's the fact check. They're not a significant source of protein. It's true they have amino acids in them, but less than 1 gram per serving. That's insignificant. So don't give up your eggs and your beans for protein, because you're not going to get it from these. The soy aminos in particular are very high in sodium. They're even higher than the typical soy sauce. So they're a condiment. The coconut aminos are lower in sodium, significantly lower. So they would actually be a good condiment for anyone to try who has high blood pressure or needs to restrict sodium. I think it's very reasonable to give them a try. But there's no research at all, zero, that supports the health benefits of either of these. I don't know how that came about, all this chat about the health benefits. They're just a condiment to be enjoyed.
We do have a comment from Aileen. She said that she made Switchel with youth at a museum camp, and the kids liked it much more than she did.
Oh, thank you for that. Aileen, is that right? Thank you for that comment. I'm glad to hear that you tried it. I'm assuming it didn't have the vodka for the kids. Okay, next we're going to move on to celery juice. You may likely be aware that there is a huge celery juice craze going on. So much so that I have even had times when I've been in the produce department and there will be either no packs of celery left or maybe one pathetic pack left. And I've come to realize that this is the reason. Why such a celery juice craze? Well, we can thank this guy. His name is Anthony William. And he's also known as the medical medium. So here are a couple quotes from him. He says that celery juice is one of the greatest healing tonics of all time. And he says, I can't see it all. I'm going to see if I can minimize my Zoom thing for 1 second. I've seen thousands of people who suffer from chronic and mystery illnesses restore their health by drinking 16 ounces of celery juice daily on an empty stomach. Okay, so where is this all coming from? He looks like such a nice guy. I think that when I first saw his picture, I thought, he just looks so clean cut and he's kind of cute. And if I was his mother, I'd probably be really proud of him. Except what has he done? He is claiming that celery juice cures digestive issues, liver disease, diabetes, skin conditions, migraines, fatigue, autoimmune disease, brain fog, and weight loss. He recommends that we start with 16 ounces per day on an empty stomach and work up to 32 ounces twice per day. That would be half a gallon altogether. It's a lot of celery juice. He says it reverses inflammation. He says a lot more than that about it, but I'm summarizing here. He says it reverses inflammation by killing harmful bacteria, something like that. And he talks about the fact that it has undiscovered subgroups of sodium cluster salts that attack pathogens and rebuilds the hydrochloric acid in your stomach so that it can break down protein, preventing gut rot and bloating. So I have to tell you, I've read that sentence at least 10 times now, and it makes no sense to me. I don't know what cluster salts are. I'm not aware that we need to rebuild the hydrochloric acid in our stomach, and I don't know that we have any problem with gut rot, whatever exactly that is. So, But yet, he's got millions of followers worldwide, and they include, I'm reading here, movie stars, rock stars, billionaires, professional athletes, best-selling authors, and countless other people from all walks of life who couldn't find a way to heal until he provided them with insights from the spirit. The spirit. Okay, so William has no medical or scientific training at all. He supposedly communicates with the spirit of compassion to get extraordinarily accurate health information that's often far ahead of its time. There is zero research supporting the claims about celery juice. But what he does have is many books. I'm showing you 3 of them here. Very often these people have many books. They can't seem to get their message out in one book. They've got many books and they're bestsellers and they make a lot of money. So what I recommend is if you like the idea of celery juice, or if you've tried it and you like the taste of it, go for it. There's no harm. It's a low calorie food. Maybe the celery juice tastes good, but don't buy the books. There is some nice celery art, not a lot, but here's what I found. This is by Lucian Freud, Daffodils and Celery from 1947, 1948. Kind of pretty. I think the 2 stalks in the middle, the 2 little ones, are celery. It took me a minute to figure that out. But you don't see a lot of paintings with celery in them. And then there's a gorgeous vase, Lewis Comfort Tiffany vase, that's comprised all of celery stalks on the outside. Just beautiful. Let's move on from celery and talk about our final mythical food. So I'll tell you what this is. This is the liquid supplement aisle at Wegmans. But not to pick on Wegmans, any supermarket or drugstore or Walmart or any store like that will have an aisle like this, just filled from top to bottom with Ensure and Boost and Glucerna.
We do have a question, Judy, from
Sure.
Philomena. She
Okay.
asked, well, first, Aileen said that there wasn't any vodka. And then Philomena asked, but isn't celery high in salt? Would the juice be as well?
For a vegetable, celery is on the higher edge of the sodium range. And I apologize, I don't know the exact figure. For a vegetable, it's got a certain amount, but it's still low in the scheme of things. It's not like a processed food. So yes, if you're drinking that much celery juice, 64 ounces a day, you might get a significant amount of sodium from that. Thank you for that point. So these liquid nutritional supplements, you would be forgiven for thinking we need them because there's so many of them. And, you know, gee, they look like they provide good nutrition. And besides, the ads tell us that we need them. You don't have to watch a lot of TV to have seen this ad. And I'm not going to play the ad, but this lady is vibrant and seems very energetic and healthful. She's a photographer, and she says, I don't keep track of regrets, I never count the wrinkles, and I don't add up the years. But what I do count on is staying happy and healthy. So I add protein, vitamins, and minerals to my diet with Boost. Okay. I was floored when I saw this ad because at least the previous lady is no spring chicken. But these two are really young. These two look like, I don't know, late 20s, 30s. But this ad would have us believe that people in that age category need to drink Ensure because life is too busy and we don't have time to eat enough food. I haven't encountered many people that don't have time to eat enough food. But their point was they've got kids, they work, they're busy. How are they going to get by without Ensure? This, to me, this is the one that makes me angry. I'm not angry about the vinegar or the liquid aminos, but I'm angry at these supplement companies. They target mainly elderly people who are often on a fixed income. We do not need those. For the most part, there are some exceptions that I'll mention, but what are these things? These are liquids, and each Boost and Ensure are very similar. So I'm showing you the label from Boost, but they're very similar, and they both, and Glucerna, they have different varieties. They'll have the high protein, the lower protein, the sugar-free, which has non-nutritive sweeteners, but typically they are water with sugar in different forms, protein added, and fat, and a bunch of vitamins and minerals thrown in. Why do we need to drink a liquid solution like that unless we're ill? So the original place for these products was when I was a much younger dietitian and working in hospitals in Boston. If somebody was so sick that they couldn't eat, or if somebody maybe had, you know, a difficulty swallowing or extensive dental work, or had to be tube fed, these types of things were the product. Boost didn't exist back then, but it was Ensure and Isocal and some others. You'd put it in the tube feed or have people sip it between meals because they're sick. But for healthy people, for this to be marketed to all healthy people, I think is a crime. And look out for your elderly in your life, your relatives, you know, your grandparents, whoever, because these ads are very compelling and people fall for it. Food. Food is what we need, good food. But let's say you like the idea of a liquid snack. Maybe you're thinking, gee, I like to sip something, you know, like a shake in the afternoon. Guess what? Pull out your blender and make a nice shake. It'll be even healthier because you can put in all kinds of fibrous, you know, plant materials that aren't in there. You could put in nice berries and maybe some kale. And, you know, I won't go into smoothie making now. We've talked about that before, and I'm happy to talk about it again in the future, but there's so many wonderful foods that can go into smoothies that you make. And guess what? Even some hospitals in their feeding of ill people are getting away from those liquid supplements and blending up their own from food, which is wonderful.
We have a question from Philomena. She said, a friend drinks Ensure for one meal a day and doesn't eat, air quotes, real food for that meal. Is that healthy? He's trying to lose weight and he has lost weight.
Well, you know, it's hard for me to speak to someone's diet who I haven't really talked to, but in general, no, that's not healthy. It's not sustainable long term, and it's not good real food. So you can lose weight on anything as long as, it's, low calorie enough. You can lose weight on anything. And so he's losing weight, but from a health standpoint and a disease prevention standpoint, it would be much healthier to blend up some superfoods like these. But, people are going to do what they're going to do, and we can offer advice and hope that they'll listen. I'm glad it's just one meal a day, Philomena, and not like 2.
Virginia made the comment that she has her own handheld blender, I guess for smoothies maybe.
Yeah, there's wonderful blenders out there. There's blenders that you can travel with, for when we get to travel again. And there's immersion blenders that you can just stick into a little pot of, and blend something up. So yay, it's important to have something you can blend things with. Or it's nice to. Okay, so let me see how I'm doing for time. Oh, good. Okay, so I want to just wrap up this section by saying, why are we drawn to mythical foods? So here's the reasons that I can think of. They're a quick and easy fix. Sometimes we just want a magic bullet. We just want something, we hear, oh, apple cider vinegar, it's gonna help my heart condition or help me lose weight. We want a quick fix. The proven paths to wellness sometimes seem too difficult. We know about them. We hear, I should eat right. I should exercise. I should try to get enough sleep and solve my stress problems and all that. It can just seem overwhelming at times. So we want something quick and easy. And sometimes we want excitement in our lives. Might be a lot of fun to be able to tell our friends, guess what? I'm going to drink celery juice every day. Okay.
We do have a couple more things in the chat.
Sure.
Virginia said she has a Blend Jet handheld blender. Philomena asked, are the handheld blenders easier to clean because she hates cleaning out her big one? Elaine says she loves her immersion blender and has no trouble cleaning it.
Immersion blenders are easy. I am not too familiar with handheld blender. I'm thinking of like something like a small, not Vitamix, NutriBullet as being portable. But maybe I'm missing a category of blender here with the handheld blenders. But was the question, are they easy to clean?
Yeah, she wanted to know, Philomena wanted to know if the handheld ones were easier to clean than the big blenders, because she doesn't like cleaning out the big one.
Well,
So
I could say something. I own one, and I've had it for like 3 months now. You can charge it quickly, and then take it all apart, and it's easy to clean. It's very small, the bottom. And if you walk out the door at the last minute, put in the healthiest thing you got, frozen fruit, and like plant milk, for example. Put it in there, and then flip it upside down, count to 3, turn the thing on, and then flip it right side up after 3 counts, and it'll spin faster if you wait for the juice and stuff to be on the cover side. And then when you flip it to the right side, now you can blend at the fast blend. Blend it like 3 times for frozen fruit, 3 cycles, I should say, so the whole thing just turns off on its own. Put it in your bag and go to work, or in your car. Just hold it in your hand when it stops, just blend it again, and it'll just start on its own. But never blend without any liquid. Always have some kind of liquid in there. You can even blend ice cubes to make frozen drinks colder, but flip it upside down first. Let it spin fast, and then flip it right side up. That's what I learned.
Looks very convenient. Thank you, Virginia. I also want to say, in terms of ease of cleaning, for anybody who might be looking for a regular full-size blender, there are some blenders that do not come apart. So there's none of the unscrewing and washing the blade and the gasket. So for example, the BlendTech, which granted is an expensive model of blender, but there are some others as well now that don't come apart. You just take a scrub brush if you want and wash the whole thing. The cleanup is much easier. So if avoiding a lot of cleanup is a goal of yours, maybe look for a blender where it doesn't all come apart and you have to wash all the individual pieces. The immersion blender, as Elaine said, is also a quick, easy way. It blends soups if you want to blend soups, and it does make smoothies. So yeah.
Lester has a question. He's wondering what your view is on avocado oil.
Oh, that's an easy, thank you for that, Lester. Avocado oil is wonderful. Avocado oil is a good monounsaturated fatty acid oil, like olive oil. So yes, I'm all in favor of avocado oil.
Real quick,
Also,
real
oh,
quick, what oil do you suggest people cook with more often? Avocado oil versus other oils? What's the best oil to use? I've heard
um,
different things.
my opinion, extra virgin olive oil. Yep. So I want to say that sometimes there is benefit to the myth. So things are not always so cut and dry. So for example, celery is nutritious. You know, contrary to what we have sometimes heard that light colored vegetables don't have a lot of nutritional value, actually they do have some. I mean, it's no kale, but it's got some nutrients. It's low calorie, it's low in sugar, it's got vitamin C, vitamin K, potassium, antioxidants, and it's hydrating because it's mostly water. So, you know, if you want to eat celery and make celery juice, that's fine. Vinegar is a lovely ingredient. I could not imagine running my kitchen without vinegar, different vinegars, including apple cider vinegar. I love it on salad. And vinegar has a nice bright flavor, and we can use it. Sometimes it can take the place of salt. Like, for example, if you make a soup and then you top it off with a few drops of vinegar, that might enable you to use less salt. And it's, you know, vinegars are fun. And even coconut oil, you know, as I mentioned, it's some people just enjoy it in certain recipes. So, benefit to the myth. The myth can also be to avoid certain foods. I just wanted to mention that. And a popular example of that these days is the nightshades. Sometimes people call them the nightshade vegetables, but that's really a misnomer because some of them are actually botanically fruits like tomatoes and peppers. But this is a group of foods and spices that contain compounds called alkaloids. The most common ones are tomatoes, potatoes, and that's not sweet potatoes, that's white potatoes, eggplant, peppers, and spices that come from peppers like cayenne and paprika. So realize that if you were to avoid the nightshades, you would have to give up cayenne pepper and paprika. So what's the deal? The
You have a
people that are,
question? Sorry.
oh, sure. Why
Elaine
don't I
has a
finish? I'm going to
question.
finish this slide and then I'll take the
Okay.
question. Okay. So the deal is that the nightshades contain alkaloids, and people say that those promote inflammation. Studies do not demonstrate this. However, different people are different. It's possible that a few people have an intolerance to nightshades. If you think you are one of them, maybe talk to your doctor about it and try eliminating them for a few weeks and see what happens. See if you feel any better. But these foods are very healthful, and there's no justification for telling the whole population to eliminate them like a lot of people are doing. And I'm looking at you, Tom Brady. I'm not really looking at him, but you know, in his T12 method, he says no nightshades. That's just wrong. These are very healthful foods. I can't imagine not using tomatoes and peppers in my cooking. So, and I'm happy to take that question.
Okay, first Lester says he loves celery with hummus. Then Virginia said she buys cold press avocado oil and cold press olive oil. And Elaine said she's been wondering about herbal supplements. She's heard good, bad, and everything in between. Is this too big a topic for this class though? Maybe another class, question mark.
Okay, well, so celery and hummus is great, a healthy snack. Cold press of any oil you're choosing is a good option. It just means that heat hasn't been used in the extraction of the oil, so it's just a little bit less processed. And I'm actually going to say a few words about herbal supplements. Nothing too in depth, but we're coming right up on that. So I hope that'll be helpful. We're going to turn to supplements right now. A huge category of, I don't want to say foods, it's a huge item in what we spend our money on. In the US, about 77% of adults take supplements, and that figure is from just last year. It's a $30 billion per year expense. That's what we spend on it approximately. That's a lot of money. And there's many different brands, as you can see from this slide, and some of them even have names that indicate that they're helpful for certain things, like the one that's called skin, nails, and hair. So now I just want to, step back and talk for a minute about the term snake oil. This is straight from Wikipedia. Snake oil is a euphemism for deceptive marketing and healthcare fraud. So what it refers to is back in the 18th and 19th century in Europe and the US, there was a belief that the oil from certain vipers, which are poisonous snakes, could be used to cure a lot of skin conditions and various bodily ailments. And there may actually have been some truth to that, because from what I've read, some of the oil in the vipers might be rich in omega-3s, which are healthful fats. So there may have been something to the snake oil itself. But the term snake oil salesman, which is a term we still use today, refers to the fact that dishonest people, entrepreneurs, would package up just plain old mineral oil and elixirs and tonics and whatever, and say that it was snake oil when it really wasn't. And all kinds of people would buy it. So we might think, who would do that? Who would fall for such a thing? How gullible could they be? So here's what I'm calling our 21st century snake oil. This is the supplement aisle in, okay, so it happens to be Wegmans, but it could be any supermarket or drugstore. Both sides filled from top to bottom with bottles of stuff that mostly we don't need. Most of this is just completely unnecessary, although there are some exceptions. So here's some facts about dietary supplements. We are still under the 1994 Dietary Supplement and Health Act, which says that manufacturers do not have to demonstrate efficacy, health benefits, safety, purity, and consistency of their products, because they're not treated like medications. They're considered to be more like a food. So what that means in plain language is they don't have to be proven safe and effective for anything. The ingredients in the amounts on the labels are often inaccurate. When third parties have done independent testing, it's all over the map what ends up really being in those bottles of supplements. They are allowed to make what's called structure function claims, but not claims that mention a disease. So on a bottle of something, they could say something like promotes heart health, but they cannot say prevents heart disease. It's a fine distinction that most people don't make. So if you see promotes heart health, you're going to think that it prevents heart disease. But the most important thing is what I've got here in red on the bottom. The scientific literature shows minimal health benefits from dietary supplements. They don't prevent colds, they don't prevent the flu, they don't prevent heart disease, they don't prevent cancer. It's hard to figure out what they do. There are some health risks associated with them. People get toxicities. You can achieve a toxic level by taking them day after day. This is especially true of the fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, but even water-soluble vitamins and minerals can become toxic if taken in very large amounts. There can be mineral interactions. So having too much of one mineral can lead to not enough of the other because it binds it up. Like, for example, iron and zinc do that. And this does not happen with eating food. This happens with taking supplements. Products that are marketed particularly for weight loss, bodybuilding, and enhancing energy have been in many cases led to cardiovascular symptoms like chest pain, palpitations, increased heart rate, and death. People have died from these products. The herbal supplements, as well as some other dietary supplements, can induce liver injury. Something like up to 20% of cases of hepatotoxicity or liver injury are thought to be due to herbal and dietary supplements. That's a lot. And some herbal products can interact with medications. And finally, they're expensive, and once again, it's the elderly who are very often preyed upon and are vulnerable and are sold a whole line of bottled supplements. I've been in people's homes and they've shown me their long array of supplements and said, is this okay? And no, generally it's not okay. It ranges from dangerous to useless to just expensive. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some times that we do need supplements, like if we're low on a particular nutrient. An example being vitamin D. A lot of us are avoiding excessive sunlight because we know of the damage from the UV rays. And as a result, many people have low serum vitamin D levels, and the doctor recommends taking some vitamin D, and that's totally legitimate. Another example would be pregnant women. It's felt that it's hard to get enough folic acid in the diet. That's a B vitamin. So they're routinely prescribed folate. And there are some other examples, particularly for someone who might be malabsorbing or ill. But for the general healthy population, I don't believe they're necessary. I think it's a big scam. I don't think most of us need a multivitamin for sure. But if you do decide to buy supplements, here's what I would urge you to do. Look for respected companies that you see commonly around. Look for them to say that they do testing for purity, potency, and uniformity of their products, because they don't have to do that again. They're not mandated to do that, but some of them do it on their own, which is nice. So look for them to say that on their label. Take low doses. Don't go for doses that say they're 500 times or even twice the USRDA. Just go for low doses. I've even talked to some people who don't want to give them up, but I've talked some people into, okay, I'll take it every other day. So that's good. And then reevaluate periodically. If you don't think it's doing anything for you, don't take it. I want to mention one type of supplement in particular. Probiotics have become very, very popular. And probiotics are live microorganisms, usually bacteria, that are intended to have health benefits when consumed. They seem to be safe in healthy people. I don't hear of anybody overdosing on probiotics, but just like all the other supplements, they're unregulated, and it's kind of the Wild West out there with the probiotics, just like everything else. There's no good evidence for routine use. But if you have a gastrointestinal condition, it might be something you want to talk to your doctor about and see if a probiotic would help. You might take it for 2 or 3 weeks and see if it helps you, and if not, stop. But probiotics from food are thought to have health benefits, and common food sources are yogurt, kefir, which is a fermented dairy beverage, sauerkraut, and kimchi. Far and away, yogurt being the most common one that people eat in our culture. So food first, have a food first attitude. Supplements should not be a replacement for food. Efforts to improve diet should always come first. And if you're spending a lot of money on supplements, just think of all the wonderful food you can buy. These should be our supplements. This gorgeous painting by Gustave Caillebotte. Oranges, tomatoes, blueberries, apples, all these wonderful foods. Think of them as being your supplements. This is at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, by the way. Okay, so a few observations of mine. When we're confronted with all this hype to get us to part with our money, whether it's vinegar capsules or the celery books or whatever, or the Ensure, be careful what you buy into. Here's some red flags. Are they saying that something is a secret formulation, something that's really good for you? Why should it be a secret formulation? If good research has been done and published, then it should be out there, and you and your doctor and everybody else should have access to what that formulation is. Are they saying it's not available anywhere else? Again, why? And especially amazing testimonials from individuals who have been cured. These testimonials are so compelling people just write so beautifully about how anything that ails you can be cured by whatever the product is. I've looked at them and I've been convinced, until I step back and remember that anecdotes are not scientific information. You don't know if Anthony Williams' mother wrote the thing, you just don't know who wrote the testimonials. We should always look at who is selling a product. Again, whether it's a diet book or a bottle of supplements, is it the person providing your health care? I think that should be a red flag. Yes, I'm sure there's some there are legitimate doctors and dietitians and chiropractors that sell things on the side, but you have to wonder if they're invested in making money in this product. Are they selling more than they need to? And look at what a person's credentials are. Be wary of degrees from non-accredited institutions. That kind of means colleges and universities that don't even meet a minimum academic standard. So if you hear about somebody from a certain college and you've never heard of it, look it up. And also mail order degrees. But unfortunately, even MD or PhD does not mean an expertise in nutrition. They don't necessarily get a lot of nutrition. This guy, so Stephen Gundry, you might have come across him. He shows up a lot, like in my Facebook feed, maybe because I Google a lot of nutrition topics, but he's there every day. So annoying. So this guy's a cardiologist. He's still practicing in California, and he's got a book, a very popular diet book, The Plant Paradox, that is a huge bestseller that has you eliminating all kinds of wonderful plant foods. I hope to talk about him more when I hopefully do a class on diets in particular. And instead of eating all these wonderful plant foods, big surprise here, he's got a whole array of supplements, extremely expensive. I've just got 2 of them here. The Vital Reds. So the Vital Reds are concentrated plant extracts from red and purple plants. Now, red and purple plants are very healthy to eat, like berries and eggplant and so on. But to pay $49.95 plus shipping for a 4-ounce jar of these plants kind of, I don't know, dehydrated or whatever, it's insane. And Untox is another one. This is meant to draw heavy metals and toxins out of your body. $69.95. And these are just 2 samples from his website. So there he is. If I could meet with him and ask him one question, it would be, how do you sleep at night? Again, marketing to the elderly and the vulnerable. So we need to seek out reliable information. We want good research published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. And I know what you're thinking. I'm thinking it too. I don't subscribe to the New England Journal of Medicine. Well, actually my husband does, but what if you don't read this thing every week or ever? That's okay. There are other people doing it for you. There are several really good resources out there that summarize really good information really clearly and succinctly. And I want to give you these, and there's others, but the top 2 are my top 2 go-tos when I'm wondering about something. I go here all the time, WebMD and the Mayo Clinic. And I believe the Cleveland Clinic also has a similar site. They give good, reliable information about all kinds of health and nutrition topics. The Whole Grains Council is just a great site for anything whole grains that you might be wondering about. I just put it in there because I love them. Health.harvard.edu and a similar one for Berkeley University have really good online information. And as much as I can tell, it seems to be free. I click on them and there is a newsletter, but I can access the information, and it's great scientific information in a very understandable manner. Down at the bottom, the Nutrition Action Health Letter is a really good health letter. If you are inclined to subscribe to that great nutrition information. But maybe the most exciting one is this site from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. It's appropriate that they would have this site because very often people that have cancer are seeking out alternative therapies and herbs and botanicals. It's understandable. So they've got a site where you go to the site, you scroll down a little and you see the alphabet, and whatever herb or your botanical you're looking for, you click on that letter, and all the ones that begin with that letter will come up, and you click on it, like if you click on echinacea or ginseng or whatever, and it'll give you the lowdown. What are the claims? What's been shown? You know, does it work, or do we not know, or is it totally bogus? I love this site, so I want you to be aware of that. Look out for yourself. They won't, and by they, I mean who's ever selling all these products. Take a good look in the mirror. That is the person who's responsible for how you spend your food and your health dollar and the decisions you make. We bear some responsibility, and what we should all try to have is a healthy skepticism, clear judgment, and a bit of willingness to search for facts. So, you might be wondering, what is good for us? I do realize that this whole talk might feel a tad cynical because I've been saying no, no, no about all these claims, but I am a registered dietitian, and I do believe that many foods are really good for us. I mean, we could rattle off a list of 30 foods right now: tomatoes and blueberries and walnuts and extra virgin olive oil and kale, and on and on and on. But the difference is, we shouldn't be saying that any one food is going to solve all our problems. It's a dietary pattern where we have lots of these really healthful foods, and we take good care of ourselves. And you know, we're not fasting and just eating this one food, for example. So words of wisdom from Maya Angelou. And, you know, I'm sure she wasn't talking about this topic when she said this, but I think this can apply to a lot of topics. But, you know, I would include health and nutrition. Do the best you can do until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. Beautiful quote. And with that, I want to thank you very much for attending this session and for taking the time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm very happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Hey, feel free to type your questions in the chat box. I've pasted 3 links there as well. There's a survey link, which is great if you fill that out for us. It helps us evaluate our programs and decide to bring in awesome people like Judy. There's a blog post with Medline resources on nutrition, and also our calendar that has more nutrition and cooking classes, including ones from Judy. Elaine says, fabulous, Judy, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
I just want to make a side comment about the supplements. I used to buy them for a long time, and they have all those really nice names like Nature Made and, you know, Earth Mother. And then I looked one up, and it was the same company that owned Coca-Cola. You know, so it was
I didn't know that.
Very false.
Oh, I should not even be shocked. We're in such a consumer society.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that you used to buy them, and maybe that means you're not buying them.
Yes. Philomena is asking if you have an opinion on flaxseed oil.
I do. Flaxseed oil and flaxseed themselves are wonderful, nutritious, heart healthy, anti-inflammatory foods. So, you know, from when I've tried flaxseed oil, I have a little trouble personally getting beyond the flavor of it. Like, I personally didn't like it on a salad, but that's just me. And what I do like, and what I recommend often, is just buying flax seeds, whether you buy them whole or buy them ground, either way. But if you like to use flaxseed oil, go for it. It's a really healthy oil. We need to do a class on oils.
Iris says that she throws flaxseed into her smoothies, and you got a ton of thank yous and good presentations.
Thank you.
Great information.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope to see you soon. Next class is, I'm blanking when the next class is, but I'm going to look it up. Next nutrition class, there's lots, August 1st. August 1st, we're going to talk about vegetables. Please come if you can.
Thanks so much, everyone, for attending. Don't forget to check out those links, and hopefully we'll see you at our next nutrition program.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.